welcome to day 3 of the 44th Mill Valley Film Festival. How's everyone feeling? Great. Well, my name's Celeste Wong. I'm the programming associate with the Mill Valley Film Festival, and it is my sincere, deep honor to be introducing Mission Joy, Finding Happiness in Troubled Times today. I really can't think of anything we need more right now than to find happiness in troubled times. I'm gonna get super cheesy on you all. It is bringing me so much joy to be here with you all after 2 years of no in-person screenings for the Mill Valley Film Festival, aside from the drive-in, no face-to-face like this. It's amazing to see you all here. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for wearing your masks during the screening and for being, such great participants in these troubled and challenging times, but for being real troopers. It brings me so much joy. I'm emotional being here in front of you, so thank you so much for being a part of this welcome back to the theaters for us. Yeah, give it up for yourselves. So I want to start by giving a huge, huge shout out, thank you to the sponsor of this film, the sponsors, that's Nancy P. and Richard K. Robbins Family Foundation and Wareham Development. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you so much for your support. We could not do any of this without you. And I also want to mention that we are presenting this film in association with the Buddhist Film Foundation, so let's give them a hand. One quick thing I want to mention as well is that this year we introduced strands as part of our program. Some of you may know this already. It's a new way to categorize our films, thinking really about what our audiences are going to be looking for this year, what kind of mood they might be in, if they want to see a comedy, if they want to see something, challenging about social issues. Oops, sorry, hitting my mask with the mic. So this film today I want to mention is part of our Spirit Strand. And the Spirit Strand, this is how we describe it: body, soul, the wholeness of being. I cannot imagine a better film to represent this strand. I think that's all the explanation necessary. But I do want to give a huge shout out to our strand sponsor. The strand sponsor of Spirit is Strawberry Village. So huge thank you to them. All right, without further ado, I want to bring up our guests to introduce the films, and please do stick around. There will be a Q&A afterwards. So I want to bring up the co-directors, Louie Psihoyos, Peggy Callahan, and Doug Abrams, who is the author of Book of Joy and the subject in the film. Come on down.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And it occurs to us that producing any documentary is an unreasonable act of love. And we truly hope that you enjoy our love child tonight.
Yeah, thanks. I know there's quite a few people in the audience that helped on the film, and when we return after the film, I'd like to invite them to stand up and be recognized. But we'll see you in 90 minutes. Doug?
I just wanted to thank you all for coming on behalf of the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. Archbishop Tutu always said, start with gratitude. So thank you all for coming. Thank you to the Film Festival for hosting us. It's a privilege to be with you all tonight.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Hello, everyone. I'm Maribel Guevara. I'm the active cinema programmer, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here with directors Louie Psihoyos and Peggy Callahan and author Doug Abrams. I wanted to once more tell you thank you so much for letting us share this film with us today and in the festival.
Thank you.
I have watched the film previously, but there's definitely no match to watch it with a group of people and feeling those same emotions together and trying to recover from that one. I guess we'll start by maybe all of you walking us through the amazing process that this film took to be made. Starting with him. Okay.
Oh, thank you so much. It is amazing to see it with an audience like this and to be representing Mill Valley to the world and embracing the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. It's been a long journey. It went all the way back, as you heard in the film, to Arch's office and that idea of creating a book before it was a film. And when Archbishop Tutu wrote a letter to the Dalai Lama asking him whether he wanted to write the book, and when I met up with the Dalai Lama, he said, when I got the letter, I got a little excited. I think if you're making the Dalai Lama a little excited, you're doing something good. So it was just, years in the making, because obviously to align their calendars, and as you heard a little bit, Arch had prostate cancer. His doctors weren't allowing him to travel. The Dalai Lama couldn't come to South Africa. We got this little clearance where the doctor said it was okay for him to go, and we had to reroute the trip twice for Arch attending funerals for his friends. So it was just this amazing reminder of the kind of footsteps of mortality that were just with us at every moment. And we knew we only had one chance to get this right. And I called Peggy up and said, look, I know we're gonna be creating this for a book, but this is never gonna happen again. We have to archive this, and you only have one chance to get it right, because we can't do it again. You can tell them to like, can we do that a take again? And Peggy, I'll turn it over to you, because you just did an extraordinary job creating that shoot and then working with Louie on the film.
So Doug calls me and says, leaves me a message. Do you want to come to India and spend a week with the Dalai Lama and Arch, and as we do interviews for the Book of Joy? I mean, what does one say to that? Duh! Of course. And we set up a studio in the Dalai Lama's compound. We had monks running cameras. We had crews from 3 different countries who didn't know each other. And we were really clear, you couldn't make a mistake because you couldn't do it again. And we didn't care how jet lagged you were, or we were. And we worked the whole week with 5 cameras, people who didn't know each other, and not a single thing ever went wrong. Which, isn't that all the proof you need that there were holy men in the room? And then, when we finally raised the money to do the film, guess who came on?
Well, the way I was brought into it, I was at a dinner party at a mutual friend of ours' house, and about halfway through the dinner, it was an amazing group of people, Stuart Brand, and just those tables where you just can't believe that you're sitting there. And I sat, we switched halfway through, and I sat next to Doug, and I said, what do you do? And he said, well, I write books. I said, well, anything I ever would have heard of? And he said, well, the Book of Joy. And I said, I love that book. And then he asked me what I did. I told him I did documentary films, and then he said, oh, we documented that, those dialogues, and do you think it could be turned into a film? And I said, well, let me take a look at it. And they had about 15 and a half hours over about 4.5 days, and I felt myself physically changed. I felt like, there's something called neuroplasticity, where it takes about 90 minutes to change the way, your brain, not the way you think, but it actually changed the neural pathways of how your brain processes information. I always say, people say, well, I saw one of your films and it changed my life. Well, now I know why, because that film, the footage that they had, it just felt like so many, like chiropractic for the soul. It just sort of snapped into place, like, oh my God, I wish I would have, had access to this film when I was in my 20s, because I started out kind of doing stuff that was like on social issues, and I got distracted, and then, came back to it with film. And, I always, we run an organization called the Oceanic Preservation Society, and like, if you want to fix what's in the oceans, you have to first fix what's in people's heads. And I thought this would be a perfect film. We started this before COVID, and now this film has become so much more relevant, I think, than we even started. And we're looking for distribution, and it's been an amazing process. But can we talk about some of we did a lot of this film right here in Mill Valley up at Skywalker Ranch. I know Bob, who did the sound, is in the audience, and Darla Anderson, who works with Pixar. She did the animations, and Samara's here. Is Shannon Joy here? I was told that Shannon was going to be here. She's coming tonight. She was one of the the producers, the executive producers, co-executive producers.
And can we tell you that while we shot the stuff with the Holy Men 6 years ago, in fact, we just went into production a year ago, June. So that means so many of the people who worked on this and given so much time and their heart have actually not met one another. And one of the reasons we were so excited to come to Mill Valley is so many of the people who worked on it live up here. So if all of you guys who have worked on the film or are working on the Impact campaign and made all of this happen, or the mates of people who were working on it and you had to hear them natter about it forever, could you stand up so we can applaud you?
Yes.
Come on, stand up, please.
Wow.
Yes.
Please.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, but, Darla, we saw each other on Zoom for like a year. I didn't meet her until tonight.
Oh, that's a great story of how everything happened. Of course, very abbreviated. Doug, I actually wanted to ask you if now watching the film with an audience also made you think, like, is there anything you miss asking that now you look back, now that it's a film and not a book? And I don't know, I wonder if there's anything you didn't ask that now you wish you did.
Well, I will say that it was really emotional tonight for me. I mean, obviously, I've seen the film, a few times. Making films is a lot harder than making books, let me just say that. And so it was really incredibly joyful to get to laugh and cry with other people together in a way that, is a kind of reminder of what they're talking about, we can only be human together. I think, at the risk of being controversial, your question makes me think of the question that I have wondered about asking the Dalai Lama of whether you can have too much compassion and whether you can have too much compassion in the face of autocracy. And I think one of the things that I'm trying to figure out in understanding how this all works and the role of kind of joy and happiness in the face of equanimity and also the necessity for action. You see these two men who are these incredible activists, who spent their lives resisting totalitarian regimes. And so I think the question, I think in the Dalai Lama's case, there was no stopping China from invading Tibet. And I think in our own reality, as we see authoritarianism creeping through the world and our nation, how do we confront that with the kind of strength and force and love that these men evidence?
Thank you. Peggy and Louie, I had a chance to had a little session of Q&A for our online version of the film. And I would like to ask you again to share with our audience here, how did this film change you? Because you both are filmmakers, careers, and I really love you share that with us.
I love what Louis says here because I kind of cry almost every time.
No, I mean, it certainly made me feel like I have the tools now to access more love and more joy. I think I'm a lot more, just when your North Star becomes love and compassion rather than, success in another kind of way, it just helps realign things. It's been really a beautiful thing to be part of this. And, as a director, we get, I think, a disproportional amount of attention on us, but it's really about this amazing collaboration between everybody. And that's the beautiful gift of being able to be a director, is that you can help bring out the best of everybody. First of all, you take two of the greatest spiritual leaders of our generation and put them in a room. That's a recipe for success for me. But then
You cast the film really well.
Yeah, and then being able to work with amazing people and get the best work out of them to create this, and it's filmmaking hopefully at its best is a gift. Like you're doing something that's very concentrated. I call it the most powerful weapon in the world for social change, and hopefully it's this is just beginning. I think we're in 20-some film festivals. 31, okay, it's going up. But the trick is always to get distribution. Obviously every screening is important, but to really scale social change, you need to get it out there. We're having, I think, a little bit of resistance in the distribution community because there is this China component to it. But I think eventually, it'll find its audience. I mean, we did a film about a dolphin slaughter, and it became pretty popular. And I think if you have a film that's really about joy and love and compassion, how to get more of it, it'll find its mark too.
And Peggy, we talked about this before as well, and I wanted you to also share how the film is about two religious leaders, but it's really not about religion at all. And I really love what you shared with me before, and please share it with us.
Oh no, I don't remember what I shared.
Well, you said that they asked you not to make it a religious film.
Yes, they did. They weren't interested in having a religious film. They were interested in having, I think, something bigger than religion, something that we could all access inside of ourselves. And they're telling us that we have agency over joy, that we can create joy in our life. We don't have to wait for joy to tap us on the shoulder, like Shazam. We can create it. And I think they start to give you some of the tools in here. The book certainly gives you a lot of the tools. And the impact campaign that we're creating is all about having agency over joy, and so that you can make your life more joyful. And that's a really exciting thing that we're getting to work on. And that's exactly what they wanted us to do. So the mission is continuing in each and every one of us.
Can I say one other thing about what the Dalai Lama said about religion when we were in the dialogues, which was so interesting? He's like, religion, that'll be useful for another 1,000 years or so. And I just thought that was like, wow, he's like putting himself out of a job, but that ability to kind of say like, okay, this is where we've evolved to now, and this is really powerful and important, and maybe it'll be many more millennia than 1,000 years, but that ability to say this is not about religion, this is about humanity, this is about our coming together at this time of divisiveness and the urgency of the moment. And I think they saw that really powerfully.
Remember, he also said he thought religion had failed people.
Mm-hmm.
And that he was thinking on
education.
a different scale.
And that it really needs to not just be through religion alone. It needs to,
Sequel.
Yeah, I was going to ask how much there was left that you would have loved to include.
There were so many great stories, and we kept cutting and cutting and cutting the film, and it felt like you were losing a child every time you lost. I mean, there's so many great things that we left out.
You only have about 90 minutes. It's about all people can sit and watch a documentary, I think, unless it's at home in a series, and we didn't want to do that. But then with a younger audience, it needs a lot of backstory too. You need to set this up because a lot of people are don't know who Arch is, that are from the generation behind us. So, we needed to set that up for the story to make sense at all.
Also, they think the Dalai Lama, they kind of know who the Dalai Lama is. He's the kind of guy that wears the same outfit every day. Right?
The other amazing element, I think, in the film is the animation component.
Darla.
That's Darla.
You all, these men have their very own gravitational force. I'm telling you, they attracted great people to this project. And Darla is one of them who made it all happen, made connections happen, found other people to work on it, and we couldn't be luckier.
Yeah, and the sound is at it was done at Skywalker, which is probably the best place in the world for sound, and had the great opportunity to work with that crew up there. So you know it's going to sound great when you're working with them.
Go, Bob.
Yeah, it's all exceptional. Peggy, why don't you tell us a little bit as well of the science component of the film and what you are planning to do around that?
Ooh. This is so exciting, and it all depends on you all, so I don't want you to feel any pressure at all. We are lucky enough to be working with people from Berkeley and UCSF and other places on something that's called the Big Joy Project, which is a citizen science project. And that means you're basically crowdsourcing science. So all around the world, you can sign up for it right now. missionjoy.org/bigjoy. What is the name of it? And people around the world will be able to sign up online, do small acts of joy for a week. It takes about 5 or 10 minutes a day. At the end of that week, you will actually get a prescription back that is tailored to what worked for you and what didn't, with more science for you. You'll see how many people in the world are also doing this. And what happens then is the big data that's collected will help scientists around the world. It will be open to all scientists around the world actually joy match. So we know that acts of kindness, we know that gratitude, we know that reframing, like you heard tonight, the Dalai Lama is the master reframer. Yeah, I had to leave my country, but actually it was okay. I like being a refugee. That's reframing at a grand scale. Finding the silver lining. So there are these small actions you can take that neuroscience tells us makes us feel better. Well, in this project, what we have come to find out is that the scientists don't actually yet know how culture impacts that, how age impacts that, how sex impacts that, those kinds of things. So when they get data from around the world that not only makes the individual feel better, it actually expands science and will help everyone in the world as we figure this out more. That is just one part of the impact campaign, and you are welcome, please, to come do it and tell everyone and their mother about it.
Very exciting. Doug, how did you prepare yourself for the interview regarding the science behind joy and happiness?
So, as you heard, I had the privilege of working with Jimpa and creating the questions, and then we kind of had an outline of where I had worked with Archbishop Tutu for over a decade, and Jimpa had obviously worked with the Dalai Lama, so we kind of knew where all the bodies were buried. We knew where the good questions would be, what they'd want to talk about. And then we went and investigated the science of those topics, so compassion or gratitude. Some of that happened before the interviews. A lot of that happened after the interviews, kind of when it was like Richie Davidson, who was in the film. I got to, sit and meet with him in San Francisco and talk about the neuroscience of some of the things that the Dalai Lama talks about and the research that they had done. I loved, that their willingness to, Arch has this wonderful expression. He says, self-corroborating truth. So he's not interested in dogma. he's not interested in, creeds. He's interested in where multiple disciplines and multiple perspectives point to the same reality. And I think one of the things that was so fascinating in the dialogue was to see their kind of different perspectives, kind of like you saw one of the big debates in the film and in the dialogues was about our emotional life and how much we control that and how much we don't control that. And one of the things I think that I learned from them and then ultimately from the science is that they're both right, but they're talking about different moments in the cascade of human emotion. So, that sense that you can actually you can prepare yourself for, in a way that lessens, we were talking earlier about the difference between reaction and response, and with that we can be less reactive and get better at responding, and that is something that we can cultivate. But inevitably, when we have those feelings that we all do and we get triggered, I certainly do. You can ask my wife about this morning. And then it's the question of like, how are we able to kind of forgive ourselves for our humanity? How quickly are we able to move to self-love? How able are we to love, compassion for others and their pain? And how quickly we can get to forgiveness. I think you saw the powerful kind of conversation about forgiveness, of this way in which we kind of unchain ourselves from the past and from trauma individually and collectively, and it's so crucial. So that was how we figured out we investigated the science, and it was just really phenomenal to see how much of what they were saying was corroborated by science.
Amazing. Have they seen the film? Have the Holiness and the Reverend? Yes.
Yeah, did you want to take it?
We watched them watch it.
Yeah, it was pretty great. I got to, it was like in the midst of the surge of the pandemic in South Africa, but we were planning to go down and show it to Archbishop Tutu, and we weren't going to go because of the pandemic and health issues and various things. And then, Arch was like, I miss you. Like, wanted to see you guys. And so we went down there, got to show it to him and watch him watch it, and live stream it for those who weren't down there with us. And then we were able to host a little Zoom with the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu, and they were able to watch it together and talk about it. And that was really amazing to have the Dalai Lama say, it's so easy to talk through the TV. We should do this more often.
And one of the things, the Dalai Lama is so generous and open and expressive, however, not particularly effusive about some things. So here's how we heard that he loved the film. He watched the film and he turned to some people in his office and he said, "Everyone here should watch the film." So they start calling, "Oh my goodness, he really loves the film."
What was fun is we usually test the films about 3 to 4 times in the process of making them at different points, just to make sure you're on track. And you're usually like watching an audience of about 15 to 30 people, and it's almost always in the back of the room, and you're sort of seeing people from the side. You're waiting for that glow of the film when they get bored, and that's of course it's like a stab to the heart. But here, like, because we did it on Zoom, so you see 30 people from around the country or the world. They all hit play at the same time, and now because you're on Zoom, you're looking right into their faces as they're watching it, and it's really exciting to see people sort of drift the first time, right, where you're doing it like, oh my God, this is awful, it's never gonna work in this business again. But then by the third time, people are riveted. The kids are coming in to bother them. They're like, get away. They're eating their meals. The cat's coming in and sitting with them. It was fun to sort of eavesdrop on people while they're watching your film.
How wonderful. I wonder if you think the film will make it to China. What do you think? How do you feel about that?
Well, I think that there is this real challenge. There are 3 T's that the Chinese are really uncompromising about, and that is Tibet, Taiwan, and Tiananmen Square. And people get canceled for talking about those three things. And so I think not officially will it get there, but I think there are ways to get it there in the end.
Keyword official.
Yeah, it's never going to be have an official screening at
Yeah.
all, ever.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah.
you know, I mean, it's so funny when you say never, ever. I'm just remembering what the Dalai Lama was saying about, you know, like he's actually asking for a kind of EU of Asia. That's what he wants instead, is kind of what he's asking for. And, you know, he's got this long view, you know, it's like that's one of the elements of perspective. And he's like, yeah, maybe for the next couple hundred years, you know. So maybe in a couple hundred years, there'll be an official screening.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking of our generation. though, yeah.
It's like-
I wanted to actually have your attention for one moment to the screen. This is actually out from the Mission Joy website. Few small things that maybe you can test tonight to see how makes you feel later or tomorrow. And I think that's the time we have. I know there's a party for you guys.
Yeah.
And thank you again for being here and sharing this amazing film that I hope all humanity watches it soon.
Thank
you,
you.
Maribel.
And thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Cheers.